Welcome one, welcome all. We have one of my favorite tracks of the season here. We get it twice a year too. It's kind of nice. Martinsville, and it was a thriller yesterday in the Xfinity race. I didn't watch it. Stats, like I usually love watching Xfinity at Martinsville. It's one of my favorite races to watch. I was unfortunately busy and I didn't get to see the 16 cautions. I didn't get to see my lineup that had one lap led amongst all six drivers and somehow Nuke in the 180 and stuff. The winning lineup on DraftKings yesterday, the winning lineup that won $20,000 had 3 laps led at Martinsville. Now, that's probably the most crazy thing you'll ever see because, you associate Martinsville with being in a Doms track. You need Doms to win. And you know what? All of the Doms crushed yesterday. At Zillish, he was looking great. Okay, he spun out, got hit, had some damage, right? Ended up falling out of the optimal by a lot. Okay, Taylor Gray dominating the race. Looking great. Well, he gets dumped by Sammy Smith in the final lap, right? He ends up getting 33 fantasy points, not enough to do it. This is just one of the craziest slates that we had all time yesterday in the Xfinity Series. You can't expect nothing less. That's why Martinsville is the best. Stats, how are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Yeah, I actually turned it off on the last caution because I wanted to watch the basketball game. And I missed the fact that so what happened? Like Hill won it from like seventh position or something?
Yeah, sixth with a half lap to go. And then obviously Sammy Smith, like he dumped Taylor Gray. I mean, he was trying to get the win, ended up screwing everyone behind him. And since Austin Hill had the inside line, he immediately just darted through. And all of a sudden, like I'm telling you, Stats, like I was min cashing. I was dead in the water at halfway through. All of a sudden you refresh your phone and you see just an absolute nuke of a day. And you're just like, and I'll never forget. I was texting my friend and stuff, but like when we found out Austin Hill won, it was like Austin Hill won that race with 0 speed. He was so slow. We talked about one of the worst plays I think I had of the year. It ends up being like optimal. I couldn't believe it.
Well, that I think that kind of sums up NASCAR. I mean, you break it down, you do all these things, and then it just gets these cautions at the end, kind of getting lucky with track position. Position here is going to matter quite a bit at Martinsville. So that means good pit stops, having a good pit, having the good stall is going to be important here. The short tracks, you got to be careful with the fact that these guys in the back easily get lapped on a short track. I mean, we might as well get into what we're looking at here today for Martinsville. You got 400 laps. This is, like I said, this is a short track. It's the flattest short track and shortest track I think we've got on the entire circuit here. They call it the paperclip. And like I said, track position is going to be crucial. Tire wear, crucial as well. So we've got, as always, a handful of guys who really perform well on these type of tracks and this track in particular. So we'll be going all over all of that. But yeah, we're typically tough track to pass on. We're going to be looking for Doms. Like you said, it was a little screwy last night. We got the Truck Series too. I mean, Heim dominated almost every lap of that race, right? So that is the potential for that is here at Martinsville, where you can, one of these guys starting out front can lead a bunch of laps. So more than likely, you're going to want one of these guys up front in the Dom position. Place differential a little trickier, but we do have a chalky, maybe the chalkiest play we've seen so far this year in Blaney starting in the 32 hole and the favorite to win the race. So it's going to be pretty tough to pass him. Blaney's put us in this position now for a couple of weeks where it's been like he looks like the guy that you've got to play.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too. I wasn't expecting to see Ryan Blaney as the race favorite when I pulled up the odds last night. Starting 32nd, had a rocket ship last week. Had a rocket ship, even the week before when he was starting 36 and stuff. Last week was unfortunate stats. He ended up making my main team. I felt really good about that 50% of the way through. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I got a Dom right. Rest of the lineup was doing well. We had Priest who crushed. We had Austin Dillon who crushed and stuff. And I just needed Blaney. I ended up min cashing even with Blaney. And, it's tough to do that. I know I had a bunch of other lineups that I think I had 50% Blaney across the 150 as well. So I was like a little bit tilted, right? He's just fast. And the engine blown up back-to-back weeks, basically. I mean, it sucks, but I mean, I'm just going to go right back to it. He's got the speed. He's got the starting position and starting 32. He'll get the PD. He could have a different strategy, which, I mean, obviously strategy is probably one of the biggest things around here, right? If you remember last year, in the spring race, Bubba Wallace led a significant amount of laps, like a significant amount of fastest laps too, but he was right behind Larson there, was able to kind of make his way around the track and stuff. But also like Logano, I think, was also a factor as well, where he took like 2 tires, was able to get out front and, and hold first position. Like, you're able to do that with different strategies here at Martinsville. Can it be effective 100% of the time? Maybe not. I mean, this is why also, like, you saw it yesterday with even like 2 days ago with Heim, right? Heim dominated for a significant amount of the race and stuff, but he wasn't going to be in first from start to finish because of the way that, guys come in for the pits. They might not pit more than twice this race, right? I mean, like in the Xfinity race, I know that's only 250 laps and stuff compared to the 400 that we had today, but like you just see tires are a factor, especially tire wear. When you're 80 laps in those tires and someone's fresh tires, it's going to be a big deal. But if it's, 30 laps fresher or something like that, it's not that significant where you're not going to move up 10 spots just because of the tires, right? And I look at that and I'm like, man, if you get Blaney where he just even leads 30, 40 laps and he already has this PD, what's the path to him not being in the winner? And I just can't think of one. I really can't. And I think it would take 2 guys in this 10K, 9K range that have to lead 100 laps apiece to potentially bump him out. And even then, stats, he's fittable. We got some great values today. And I look at this and I had 3 guys at 9K or more. And you can make the case for several guys in the 6K range. And that's not usually the case. But a track like Martinsville, you can kind of see like unique, I would say unique strengths, for like a track. Obviously we have Ryan Preece, who we love on short, flat tracks, crushed last week, starting 21st, 7,500, right? But then you can go further down. You guys have guys like Eric Jones who do really well here. I mean, like you look at Eric Jones just in some races, he's gotten like a couple of top 15s, a couple top 20s and stuff. He'll be starting like 31st. And you got Shane Van Gisbergen, who we're going to talk to about later on. But, 2 of his 3 races that he's had here has actually been a very wild success for a guy like him. So I don't know. I feel like you're going to have a lot of paths today, and I think that's going to be great for tournaments. And I do think when we talk about the studs here, that almost all these studs feel a little bit in play, right? And I don't usually have that take, right? I like to take stands, take some fades here, like where you're going to have, Chastain's probably the only guy I'm going to rule out above 9K or 9K and above. But man, we have a lot of options. We'll go ahead and dive into that. Stats. Let's start with the studs. You already talked about Blaney, but let's talk with the pole sitter, Christopher Bell. He has a plus 700 odds to win the race in DraftKings Sportsbook. He is the most favorable pit stall, right? With winning the pole, a good pit crew as well. Last week spun out, had a very bad week at my homestead. But overall, he'll be one of the most popular players in the slate. You got Chase Elliott starting behind him. What are you looking at here, stats?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mentioned it when we started. This is a track that's going to be really tough to pass on. Bell has been great here, so you really like the pole. Again, go back to that truck race on Friday night. I mean, you could get out front and lead a whole lot of laps, so don't be shocked if Bell leads, 100+ laps in this race and just dominates at least on the early going. Like you said, I think he's the second. Where is he in the mark? He's actually the 5th choice now in the betting market. So it looks like that's moved a little bit, but unless I'm looking at the wrong, that's today's market. Yeah, he's at plus 1,000 now. So yeah, 5th choice to win the race. And like I said, it's going to be hard pressed for him not to be the guy who leads early and gets the dom points. So I think this is a tricky fade. Let me kind of see where I had his where I've got his ownership at. Plus, look, you've got, we talked about Blaney, so he's the most expensive guy on the slate. A lot of people are going to be playing Blaney with one of these other 10K plus guys. So like you said, we're going to have to dip down. We're going to have to dip down into that 6K range, which I think there's enough value down there that a lot of people are going to be playing that. So you're going to see a lot of Blaney Bell lineups out there this week. And, and I can't really blame people because I think he probably gets somewhere between 80 and 120 laps led, I think, in this race, and he should finish strong. So I think a top 5 with that many laps led, he's going to probably be in the winner.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, especially to start the race and stuff too, like 80 laps in the first stage, you don't have to pit at all. There's a very strong chance that Bell could just run the first stage there, right? Chase Elliott, though, I mean, look, if you're looking for leverage off of a Bell fade, right? Like Chase Elliott was great at some short flat tracks that we've already been to in the past, and obviously he's great here. And it's the one thing that I don't want to like dismiss from him. I mean, if you look at his most recent races here, I mean, he's got, obviously the 22nd finish is a little bit, not great, but like 8th, 2nd, 10th, 8th, 3rd, right? You look at earlier this year, and I'm not trying to pick from the Clash or whatever like that, but that's a very short flat track. He was able to kind of get some down points there. I know it's completely different. It was that quarter mile and stuff, but it's like he is good at these type of tracks. Kind of associate him with being decent at like these short, flattish tracks. Like obviously, not a whole lot is going well for Chase Elliott at the moment. He's not like he's just been the stud for the Hendrick team like we saw previous years and stuff. Right now he's behind like Larson and Byron in the pecking order, but I don't want to completely dismiss him. I mean, his odds to win on DraftKings Sportsbooks plus 850 compared to Bell plus 700. I do want someone from the front row. The reason why I say that stats is someone from the front row I feel like is going to lead 80 laps. Like I think whoever gets it early is going to lead the race with clean air. They probably wouldn't get caught up to with 40 to 50 laps in. I mean, you just look at that clean air until they get into traffic, it's almost impossible. And unless we get like a long run or these restarts late on, like, it kind of happens here, right? Like where you just get these like long extended runs with not a whole lot of passing. That was especially the case in the trucks race. I felt like no one could pass anyone. But if I did branch off to it, I'm actually going to throw you a name here who I like. But it would be like a guy like Joey Logano. And like, I know it's kind of like a little bit off the board. Like obviously Larson and Hamlin are going to be a lot more popular and stuff. But like, if I were to get like a little bit unique where I wasn't like playing the top two, I think I'd even go more off the board with like Joey Logano, where not the greatest season, right? Like he's been fine, right? But he hasn't like posted the results or anything like that. I think he comes in low owned. I think he might be the lowest owned driver in this range. Like I think Briscoe probably beats him in terms of ownership. And I'm fading Chastain, but like this is a guy who's good at these type of tracks, right? Like he led a lot of laps, did a unique strategy last year as well, where he just took 2 tires and was able to hold the lead. His recent finishes here. I mean, he's got 4 top 6s here in the last 6 last 6 races. So
the last time he finished out of the top 10 was back in 2019. So
yeah, like it's one of those things, stats, where I'm just looking at it. I think that I am going to, be very bullish on a guy like Joey Logano today. And that would be kind of getting off the board, where I'm still getting the Dom upside of a guy inside the top 7. But, I think that might be the way I do it if I'm fading Bell and Elliott, just to get really weird and go like Blaney, Logano, and then maybe a guy like Bubba Wallace or Bowman, who we could talk about later and stuff. But it's kind of a unique slate for that reason. Like I really feel good about my values. I really feel good about even some of these mid tiers, but I do want to mix it up in the DOMs, right? I don't want to just jam in 100% Christopher Bell today. I mean, I do want to kind of get even exposure across the board. I think Bell would be my favorite. Elliott would be my second, but then I think I'm going to get a little bit unique where I would rather have Larson and Hamlin straight up, but I'm going to value that 1,000 salary that we need, and I'll probably have a lot of Logano for that reason. What do you think?
Yeah, I could get behind Logano. Like I said, he's just been really solid here. Hasn't won, right, in recent history, but I mean, all these top 10 finishes, and really, I say top 10, 2 of those in 21 and the last time out here were 10th place finishes. The rest were top 7s with a couple of second place finishes in there mixed in. So he's been really good, and he was very good in practice. So he had one of the fastest cars in practice as well. So I like that play. You're going to see, you mentioned how these guys, the higher priced guys are, there's really not many of them that you want to throw away of all these guys who are pretty much in the 9K range. Like you said, Chastain may be that guy that you could kind of eliminate, but everyone else, 9,300 and above, is certainly in play. And what we're seeing is you take Blaney out of it because he's just, got place differential plus has a Dom point potential. All those other guys, from Larson down to a Briscoe, those guys are going to be sharing ownership. There's going to be a lot of, like, you're looking at all of those guys somewhere between, I think, the low 20% up until the low 30%, somewhere around there. So those guys, it's going to be ownership spread out. So Blaney will get the bulk of it, and then that next tier of guys there down to Chastain are going to spread out the ownership. You mentioned, Elliott starting in the second row. I think it's like, if you're not going to go with Bell or I think you almost have to take a Bell or an Elliott. I think you almost have to take one. It's going to be really tough for one of those guys not to be the one that doms. I'm perfectly fine with pivoting over to Elliott. Good history here. Good on the short tracks. Last 2 times out last year, a second and a third place finish in a year that, he didn't necessarily have a great year, and he had third. I think if I go back, I know early in the season last year he wasn't very good, and he was still able to get that third place finish in the first race here at Martinsville last year. So I expect Elliott to be strong. If you look at his practice times, he was one of the fastest on the track. When he got up to that out to like 15 and 20 laps, I think he had the second best time out there. So yeah, I could certainly get behind. I think Logano is a really nice pivot play. I think Chase Elliott's also a good pivot off of Bell. If you don't want to take, if you want to kind of save some of the price here, save the $300 if you need it, which you very well may this week, and then Logano an even bigger savings. So I think you can make a case for all these guys. If you go a little higher up, we didn't mention, Kyle Larson, who I think, Larson has, let's look at his track history here, which I know has been pretty good. I mean, look at his numbers. The worst he's finished is 6th.
Yeah.
At this track since 2022. So, I mean, it's insanely strong. You've got a Denny Hamlin, who, again, whenever we talk about tire wear, you got to bring up the name Denny Hamlin. Been pretty good. Also at this track, his worst finish was 11th. He had a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th since 22. And you also want to look at one thing I didn't mention. One of the highest correlated tracks here is going to be Phoenix, which we just raced in. Hamlin, the second place Phoenix. Second place at Phoenix, and he had Christopher Bell, who won in Phoenix. So I think a lot of these guys, it's going to be really interesting. You can make a case for just about every guy here. Byron as well has some pretty good. Byron won here in the spring race last year, so defending champ, and has had a lot of solid finishes. But he's been a little bit more. There's been a little bit more variance with Byron than there has been with some of these other top drivers at this track. So I don't know. It's going to be really difficult. That's why the ownership's going to be spread out, and I think you can make a case for all of these top guys.
And Jake, I think the ownership on Bell and Blaney, I think they'll combine for about 100% ownership. All right, I think that's combined. I think Blaney might be. I always say, I like to cap it at 40%. We have seen 55% a little bit today. I think 95%. If I had to guess, I would say 55%. For Blaney, 40% for Bell. And I think Bell could be in that 5% error range.
I think Blaney, I'm going to take the over 55%.
Oh, that's interesting. I do think that people value the Dom upside more than the PD. Obviously, Blaney can sell Dom. I don't want to completely take that away, but you're not expecting the Dom points as much from him at 11K, right? Is right 11K,
11. It's over 11, isn't it?
11, yeah. So, no, that's an interesting. I think 55 is the number. I think we're going to dance.
Yeah, no, I think you're close. I'm just going to take the over. I think he gets a little higher, and it's the price. Look, they put a good price on it, so that's going to. I
will be above 55% personally. So
what's that?
I will be above 55% personally. So
yeah, I think I'm going to have to go there as well. I think when you get the chalky plays that are place differential, they get more ownership than the chalky Dom plays. Typically.
Shout out my dad. The legacy motor drivers, John Hunter Nemechek. Shout. Okay, I like it. I'm not playing Bell at that ownership, Gary. I get that. It's one of those things too where someone mentioned it too. Lycan mentioned it, like Bell having the top pit stall, which is important. You can get it in and out really quick. The Bell, you just look at that team just in general. I think they always have the top pit speed, I think, in terms of pit stop time. We also I saw a video last week. I posted it after the race, but there was a pit stop that took like 8.69 seconds stats. A full 4-tire pit
stop. 4 tires?
Yep, 4 tire. 8.6
who was it?
I want to say it was Priest. I think it was Priest who had the 8.69 seconds.
That's insane.
You think about how far NASCAR has come. Obviously, the one lug, just the one lug nut there. It's like crazy, right? Just awesome stuff.
We're getting into F1 territory here.
It is funny. Like F1, they said you can't do 2-second pit stops anymore. Like you can't be under 2, or else it's like a penalty or something like that. And meanwhile, NASCAR, they're kind of getting a little bit closer together. Let's go ahead and move on from the studs. We'll have our full content up. If you feel like that we skipped someone, you can obviously subscribe. RPS 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. you'll have Big T's rankings who are already up. You'll have Stats' rankings that will go up here shortly, and then you have mine that are halfway finished. So, it's like we're all at different stages of our content at the moment. But Stats is here on the show. He'll have baseball here shortly as well. So,
yep,
I'll try and wrap this up before noon.
Yeah, I did post some baseball stuff already early this morning. We had busy Sunday mornings for me.
Hey, just go ahead and just real quick. I know that we, want to get done by noon and stuff, but some of the baseball content that we have is a little bit new this year, including the boom rating. Right? That's a very interesting one. I think that kind of summarizes what you can explain it much better than me, but those who are looking for upside in their bats would benefit using that tool, right?
Yeah, I've been messing with this, since last year off and on. I was trying to come up with a sheet. Ideally, what we try to do at RPS is come up with stuff for you guys that is obviously informative, is going to help you make winning lineups, but it's also easy to read and easy to use. I mean, you can go ahead and, if you're one of those guys who, especially in baseball, you like to dig deep into the stats. I mean, we've got that stuff also, but I think a lot of people want to kind of see it presented in a way that's really easily digestible. So that boom rating sheet, it's really good. Break it down by position, and it does incorporate the salary, but it's looking for the players who have the upside and salary combination at each and every position. So, I mean, we started Thursday, and I've gotten a ton of feedback in the Discord that people are really liking it. So, I mean, that's all you could really ask for. So when we, I'm constantly trying to think of, for all the sports, different content that we could put out there, different pieces of statistics, and kind of massage them in a way to show you where the best plays are in the easiest way. And I think hopefully that the boom rating sheet, and then I put a little boom report article out there, so you could really just kind of, if you really need to quickly just look at it, tells you what the top plays are, the worst plays, the best value plays, some of the best stacks, and some of the most the best value stacks out there. And look, we had on the show, I do a show Fridays with Boynton. Eugenio Suarez was one of the top plays in the boom sheet, certainly for the price. He was the cheapest guy up in the upper level price, and then he goes and he did boom. So he had a big day. So we've had in day one, I think some people cashed with Wilmer Flores and Helio Ramos and the Arizona guys on Friday night. A lot of people crushed. So getting a lot of positive feedback. The report is up. I had it out early this morning, and so you guys who are subscribed to RPS, you get the benefit of that.
Yep. As a Reds fan, I know that Wilmer Flores crushed opening day all too well in the ninth inning there. But Eugenio Suarez, too, with 4 home runs already this season. So that's a really good tool. We got a lot of stuff. And Uncle T in the chat, too, obviously cooking up some baseball winners as well. It'll be fun. Let's go ahead and get back to NASCAR here. Again, code RPS15. 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. All sports, the nice package there that you can get if you are interested in NASCAR, baseball, and everything in between. And if you sub now, you'll probably get the F1 race next week too. I'm not sure when it expires, if it's midnight or not, but we'll have an F1 race in Japan next week on April 6th. All right, the mid-tier. This is probably one of the best mid-tiers that I remember. And the reason why I say that, Stats, is I look at it, right, where it's not just because of PD plays, right? I think that's like the number one thing, but it's like also you have really good Dom upside here. And I didn't mention it in like the first, studs range and stuff, but the reason why I like Logano too is like he's not afraid to run an alternate strategy that can get him out in front and lead laps, right? You also have like guys who I think are very capable of that. And one of those guys is Carson Hocevar, who I know he's going to be a lot of people's favorite play at 6,600, was fast in practice, start 29th and stuff. But like what I saw from him last week, Stats made me so excited about him for DFS opportunities later on. I know that he's already a really fast driver. He can piss off a lot of guys. And ultimately at Martinsville, if you piss off the wrong guy, they can immediately get payback. And that can be a little bit of trouble. But overall, when you just look at, alternate strategies and stuff, I think Bubba Wallace is capable of that. I think you obviously, we'll get that, like they always mention it, like Ricky Stenhouse being that type of guy too. But it's like, it is ultimately Josh Berry, a guy who kind of ran a little bit of alternate strategy a couple weeks ago where he didn't pit right away and ended up being in his great position there, right? Where he ended up being in there. Ryan Preece is the same way, finishing right behind him. I like these type of plays, right? I feel like they have all the upside in the world. And you also just have guys with speed. And we keep talking about it every single show. We always bring up Ty Gibbs' name. And, stats, he was really fast in practice. And you know what? I'm rolling the craps dice again. I'm rolling the dice again. And you know what? I'm not playing him. I'm fading him. I'm going to stick to my guns. He's got to do it first before I play him. Well, I'll tell you this, stats. I was very tempted to give him a good projection today. Like, I really was. But I'm lucky that he is starting 13th. But you do really kind of associate with him being good at short tracks right now. Like, look, his best performance last year that I thought that he had a chance to win that race was Bristol, where the tire wear was crazy. And like ultimately, Ty Gibbs had one of the fastest cars there. Bristol is not the same. I know it has the high banking and stuff and everything, but like short tracks are Ty Gibbs's MO. And the reason why I'm talking about him so much is because our big T, Tony, ranking him second in his mid-range guys. I have to get your opinion. We have to start off with Ty Gibbs. It's tradition unlike any other here. What are your thoughts on him today?
I mean, he's playable. He's playable for the reasons that you said, but I don't know. I mean, each and every week, I think his ownership just loses something. So eventually he's going to be the play. I mean, the clock's got to be right, 2 times a day, right? So I don't know. I mean, starting 13th, this is exactly the position. I think he started 13th last week again. Also, and we said it 2 weeks ago. I was like, boy, I feel so much better about him starting 13th, so I could just totally not play him. And then last week, of course, I had him in there because he was so fast. And then this week, you're like, okay, short tracks. He's been terrible, but starts 13th again. I just think, look, if you're going to play him, mix him in. I'll have him in my mix in the 150, but it's not going to be for much, 5 to 10%. And certainly, I think he's a fade possibility here. If you're playing 20 lineups, I would suggest fading him totally.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. We're all getting there, right? We're just some are just a little more hopeful than others. I mean, we know that car can be fast too, but like I just compare it to craps, man. Once that 7 comes up, I'm hit. But yeah, Uncle D makes the point, right? You got 40 to 1 at 7K. He'll get some ownership for that reason alone. Passing is not the easiest here, and I understand that about these type of plays, right? Where you look at Ty Gibbs on paper, pretty good play, good practice speeds, right? Everything else that we've seen from him over the last 12 races and stuff would disagree with that. But also brings me into the case in point of guys like Bubba Wallace, 12 to 1 odds and stuff, where I had a lot of Bubba Wallace. This is why it killed me last week's stats. I had a ton of Bubba, I had a ton of Blaney. I was set up for a minted finish, man. I was excited. And ultimately, when Blaney's engine went kaboom, everything else went to crap on the slate. But Bubba Wallace is going to be a guy where he'll be very popular at 7-2, where the odds are plus 1,200 for the winner. I mean, that's elite. I look at that type of play, and I think I'm frozen for a second here. So let me see if I can fix that. But
you're good. Yeah,
I look at that. Okay, good. I look at that type of play, and I want to get a lot of him. He was very fast here last year. Like I said, he made a very good impression on the slate last year too, where he had a ton of fastest laps. Then you look at a guy like Priest starting 21st in very good form, and we know that this is Priest's MO. This is why I kind of get excited for this range here stats. And then I look at a guy like Keselowski, who I clicked on for a minute, but same thing last week. He was okay. Then he just wasn't. Never got off the ground at all last week. And you make the case, I mean, Phoenix being a good comp track and stuff, but ultimately, like, I'm just kind of done with Keselowski for the time being in terms of a main lineup. I'm willing to fade him. Like, if my last spot in my lineup came like where I had to get Keselowski or I had to go to Josh Berry, I think I'm going Josh Berry. I'm taking the 13 spots in PD. I know I'm sacrificing that, but I know Josh Berry is very capable at a track like this. And again, another guy who is really good at short tracks. And I'm willing to buy on Josh Berry over a guy like Keselowski. I'm willing to buy on a guy like Priest or Bubba over Keselowski. And I know the reason why I'm saying Keselowski's name so much because he's starting 27th. He's going to be chalky again. He's going to be high owned. He's approaching 35% on Sabre. He's a fine click, but he's not a click that I think is going to win you the big 100K up top today stats.
Yeah, no, I get it. Look, it seems like we're getting Keselowski in this spot every single week. And he's going to start 27th. It's not quite Blaney, but good PD play, but I could get behind fading him for sure. Berry is really, really good at Martinsville, right? And the whole world knows it. and he starts 14th, one spot there behind our boy Gibbs. But you got to like Barry. What's the odds here? Where's Barry's price in the market? I'm not seeing. Oh, the plus 3,500. So, starts behind Gibbs. So if you like Gibbs, you got to like Barry even more. But the whole world's going to like Barry. So what do we think the ownership on where do we get? I don't know what Saber's got him at, but
so Saber has Barry at 15%. They have Gibbs at 22%. I think that's right. Josh Barry on
just 15%. Yeah, I guess starting 14th.
Yeah,
I think you want to get over.
Yeah, Barry is 18 plus 1,800, right? Like it's like one of those things too, or like that. I think the odds are going to vary across the board for him. If you said plus 3,500, I might be willing to sprinkle some. But DraftKings Sportsbook's NASCAR odds are.
I'm just looking at best odds right now.
Yeah. are not the complete best odds that you'll
Yeah, exactly.
DK Parker.
Yeah, if you look at Odds Checker, I'm just checking out the best odds in the market, but yeah, the Barry, I don't mind Barry here, especially if that ownership's going to be that low. I don't know if that could be he might fall into my sub 20% play of the day, Josh Barry. So yeah, I like that. I do like Barry. We didn't really talk much about Kyle Busch, but I think he's pretty much unplayable here at Martinsville. So I would avoid Kyle Busch. Priest. I think the concern with Priest is going to be on the long runs. So we'll see, and you can expect to have a lot of. I mean, I guess if we don't get a similar race to what we did last night, but typically we're going to have a lot of long runs. So I worry about Priest there. But Priest starting 21st, you got some pretty good place differential. And I think he's finished top 15 3 out of the last 4, or 3 out of 4. He's only raced here 4 times in the next gen vehicles. He finished in the top 15 3 of those 4, one time finished 9th. It's nothing crazy, but if he gets us close to a 10 at the price 7,500, if he gets us a 10th place finish, it might do it. It might get us there. We'll see. So I think Priest is in play, but of these guys, I kind of got a sneaky feeling about Barry because I think Barry can actually contend to win the race.
I agree with you, Stats, and like I said, that plus 3,500 that you mentioned earlier, it's pretty.
I don't know what book it is because they changed their layout, so I'm trying to see.
Yeah, that might be worth sprinkling.
BetMGM has it.
Ooh, okay, well, good thing. Yeah, all right. I'll be in BetMGM. I got the account open here in just a second. We'll be betting that one. And real quick, we had a comment here about Custer. He is in the next tier. We have him in the value tier for what it's worth. So Hocevar was the last guy in the mid tier that I have listed. Actually, it was Tony who made these tiers, which I think it's good to have Custer into the value range because I think Hocevar is good to end on in terms of how we split it up, 6,500 and below. Look, I'm very high on Hocevar. I think a lot of people will be. Is there any take that you just want to summarize real quick before we move on to the values for him?
On Hocevar?
Yeah.
I mean, I like him in this. I mean, starting 29th, I think you have to like him. Again, the ownership, where are we looking at it? I think because when I'm looking at, his ownership
25.
Okay, in the low 20s. I think that's about right. That's not bad. I think we're going to get some good value. I think this is probably the most wide open non-restricted plate race that we've seen so far this year.
Yes.
So you're going to get some of these low. Don't get locked in like I've got to take all these high-owned guys. I want to play a cash lineup in GPP. Not going to work here today. We're gonna find some guys sub 20%, maybe 2 or 3 in these winning lineups. We'll see where Hocevar finishes up as far as ownership goes. But I mean, he's super aggressive, which I like here. I think I was listening to the story. I think it was Kyle Busch who said he raced him when he was 15 years old, and he like ran him off the track or some shit. He spun Kyle Busch out at like 15, and Kyle Busch is like he never apologized, never said a word about it. So that's the kind of driver he is. He will piss some people off, but I like the Hocevar play starting 29th down in this range. Who are some of the other guys here? Cole Custer. Yeah, I mean, I think it. I think Custer's, he's playable. When you look at his practice speed, he was sixth, and he was second best on the 30 lap average behind Blaney. So he's got speed. So I think Custer's very much in play. Let's look at the projected ownership here on Custer. So a little lower. Again, a lot of these guys are going to be in that, like, at least projected in that 20% range. We'll see how it shakes out. But I like Custer down here as well. What about your boy? I don't know if we got down there yet, if we're going to talk about sub 6K, but SVG as well. Yes. Sub 6K. I mean, that's your guy.
It's funny too. He probably will be the sub 20% play. And I know that sounds absurd to play him on an oval or a paperclip, but I think that there is a very good chance, right, that 2 or 3 6K, I would say under 7K drivers could be optimal. I think Bubba or Priest being in that kind of like 7.5, 7.2. I'd rather have them. And I think Daniels, you make the point too, but I think Bubba's a great play. Like, I'm going to have a lot of Bubba. I'm going to be over the field on him and stuff too. But I'm going to be lower the field on Kez and stuff. But like, I look at this 6K range, right? Eric Jones has been pretty good here. Cole Custer, obviously in a fast car and stuff. I think Austin Dillon has just really improved his, racing overall. Like, I think he's been just a fine piece starting 18th and stuff. I don't think it's like the worst play in the world. Then you get down to like Dinger, who I think is fine, ran really well last week too. But SVG, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, I'm never playing SVG on an oval. I get it, right? And look, no one's going to have, Shane Van Gisbergen on the radar. But when you look at what he's done here at Martinsville, and he's raced here 3 times, which I think really matters he's a very talented driver, right? He is also my favorite driver on the grid, but had an 11th here in the Xfinity Series here last year, right? 28th in his second race. Okay, cool, happens, right? But also, he has a cup appearance here, and I think in that cup appearance, he did not do terrible. I think in that series, he got 12th here in 2024 in the fall race. Now, I'm not saying like he's just going to be a smash play, but he's starting 33rd. He's my favorite driver on the grid. He showed some speed here in the Xfinity with the top 15. He showed some speed here in the Cup in the last race that we were here. I'm going to have a lot of SVG today. And by a lot, I'm going to be like triple the field, which will probably be 20%. And I think the field will have him at 7%.
I think he's going to be a little higher than that.
Really?
What do we have him projected? We only have 10% projected.
10%. I think that's right. I don't think people don't like clicking his name.
Yeah, they don't like playing him on an oval. I get it. But his practice times were pretty good. He looked good in practice, and we could definitely move up here and get some good PD at 5,900. I think he comes in the high teens. That's what I'm going to say when it's.
That's a good point from Lycan too. Like the road course guys do kind of like thrive at a track like this where it's just flat. Right. It's really reliant. I know you're kind of going in circles and stuff, but like it's almost like driving on like a just regular road. I mean, there's hardly any. Like it's actually like a really good track. I really like Martinsville to watch.
There's one thing we didn't mention, and someone mentioned in the comments earlier. There is potential for some rain here.
Rain tires,
Rain tires will be in play if it does rain. I looked at the weather a couple of hours ago. To me, I think they're going to be fine. I think they get away with it being dry, but they will race. They will race this one if it does. If the rain's not too bad. And it looked like showers at like, I don't know, the last I looked at it was like maybe 1 o'clock somewhere in that window, the 1 to 2 window. So I think we're going to be okay as far as weather goes. But if there is weather, of course, that will throw a monkey wrench into things, and we'll get the wet tires, which is always fun.
And we know who thrives in the wet. Shane Van Gisbergen.
that is true.
Chicago race, baby. This is and Daniels, you make a good point here too. Like, look, I think we're going to have a unique winner tonight for 100K. All right. And you have a guy like Austin Dillon where, look, not the sexiest play starting 18th, but every one of these guys have their like upside who I feel like I'm playing this week. Like, I'm going to have some clear fades. Like, I'm not going to be clicking Ty Dillon, Cody Ware, Burt Myers, Casey Mears. All right. I'm not going to be clicking any of those names. But like every one of these other guys, I feel like are going to have the upside to potentially be in the winner. And this is why I also like potentially playing 3 guys at 9K or above stats, because I feel like I can and not sacrifice too much, right? You can make a case for Dinger. You can make a case for SVG. You can make a case for Jones, Custer, Dillon, and not even to mention, guys like Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, right? Like Todd Gilliland. I didn't even mention him, all right, at 5,600. Like all of those guys have upside, I feel like, to be in the winner. And I feel like that's what makes the slate super unique. It makes it really fun to kind of build lineups for. And hopefully we see some good results at the end. Any comments on the other, value range that you wanted to touch on before we get to our play of the day?
I mean, just to touch on Austin Dillon, I could see. I mean, he's the only guy who's won down at this price range on a short track. And if you look, he's won at Richmond, which the two tracks that you have to look at for the best comps are going to be Phoenix and Richmond. And Austin Dillon has won here. So, I mean, typical of a driver at his level. There's been some ups and downs, excuse me, on these short tracks, but the potential for the upside potential is great here with Austin Dillon. I think Austin Dillon catches some. He won't get a ton of ownership. I think more than maybe we expect. So if I open up and I don't have it in front of me now, I just lost it. Okay, here we go. Sabre. So Austin Dillon, Sabre's got him in the 20s, 23%. Is that right? No, I got it wrong. I'm looking at his projection. Austin Dillon, 10%. Yeah, 10% ownership. That makes sense. I think he gets. I think he might get a little higher there. I think he can get some really good leverage on the field, even if by higher, I don't mean a lot higher than that. I think Austin Dillon is another big upside guy. So you're going to have a few guys here down in this value range that I think are certainly worth taking a stab at. You've got guys like, Ricky Stenhouse. I think you just mentioned Stenhouse, but starting 34th, can easily run in the top 20. I think he's certainly in play. I think some of the guys you can kind of throw out. I think you throw out a Justin Haley. Gilliland could run top 20
practice. Yeah, Justin Haley was like one of the slowest cars in practice, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason I wanted to play Haley coming in, but it's like he was not even close.
Slow
to the other.
And just hasn't been very good on the short tracks in the next gen. Some of the other guys just are starting too high. Zane Smith, Nemechek, start too high for me. You could potentially play a Ty Dillon if you need to really save down at 5K. He starts at 28th, and I think the two guys down below there, Ware and Myers, are just unplayable. But I think you can play both Dillons. Ty Dillon, I think you could sprinkle in. You're not going to get too crazy with. I think Austin Dillon has a shot here at a really strong finish with the 18th starting position, and he'll be low owned. So I think you can get some leverage there. I think we've got some potential spots here. Who we looking at to be low owned that you could play? I think you could play Austin Dillon. I think you could even play a Cole Custer from the 22nd, who's not going to be very high owned. We didn't really talk about Eric Jones all that much.
He is,
but another really good place differential.
Yeah, Eric Jones, like I know I didn't really mention. I could have said it on the show, but he's like actually one of my favorite plays down here. I had of SVG in terms of just like regular play. Like if I had to pick one for my just for my main lineup and stuff. But like you look at recent history here, right? Just going back to like 2020, 2023, I should say. Like he's gotten a lot of top 20s here, right? 13th. 18th, right? I know that's back in 22, but if we went back to like 23, 31st and 21st, not great. Then all of a sudden last year, 12th and 19th. Like he's got a lot of top 20 upside here, and I think that's going to be good enough, right? Could it be in the winner if he gets 19th? Probably not, because I do think it's going to take a pretty stout score to get there. But like I'm going to take, if you offer me 19th in a main lineup, for a guy starting 31st, I think I'm going to bite your hand.
That's been his average finish here in the next gen cars at Martinsville. That's his average. So half the times we're going to get a little bit better than that, which should be good enough. So I think you do have to like an Eric Jones here. He kind of runs and finishes right in the same spot. So what does he starts? So he starts 31st. Yep. You could expect him to basically be running all day long, between 17th and 22nd. That's where he's going to run. And he'll finish somewhere in that range.
Like it could be good enough. Like if you offer 17th, I think there's a very strong chance. 19th, it's like obviously you're going to kind of diminish your odds and stuff. But like that's why like I feel like these guys, especially like Shane Van Gisbergen and Eric Jones, both of my top two here, I think they have the upside to do it.
I think they should be, and I think Gilliland as well down here is playable. I think those will be your three highest owned guys down at this level. And maybe you get a little Allmendinger, might get a little some play at 13, starting at 23rd. So we'll get some ownership there as well. But I think it's an interesting, like I said, ownership's going to be spread out quite a bit. Outside of Blaney, Blaney's the one that it's going to be tough to fade Blaney for me. I think this is an all-in spot. If you're 20 max, and I think you have to go all in. I mean, it's been 2 weeks in a row with the. I mean, they got to have that fixed, and he's got too fast a car. I think you shove it all in and you hope for the best.
What's killing me, Stats, is that I think my core has done really, really well this year in terms of just my top 3 drivers and stuff, and I haven't pieced together any top 5 or anything any 1% finishes that are really threatening. And I feel like if I should just shove on Blaney, right? I shouldn't just go a little bit above the field. I'm kind of with you. I'm debating it too. All right, especially in 20 entry max, I might just hit the lock button there.
I don't shove in the 150 often, and I'm contemplating it here. So
yeah, and I think in the 20 max, I think I'm hitting the lock button for sure. And then I really want to get above 75% on the 150. I just feel like that. And then at that point, it's why not just go all in? I know that you and JVC and stuff, and you guys talked about showdown strategy and stuff too. The way you can get really unique winners on these really chalky NBA slates as well. If you just lock in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the top, right, in the captain spot, the most unique Shai Gilgeous-Alexander captain spot sometimes wins. That.
That's exactly right. I talk about it in all the sports. So the stronger position or the stronger take you have, or the stronger take that you make on a specific player, or a stack in baseball or a stack in football, whatever it is, if you're gonna lock someone in, you get really more. A lot more variance, or a lot more variety in your lineups, diversity, I should say, with the rest of it. So if we're going to lock in a Blaney here today, then we don't really want to fade all that many drivers, because that 2 to 5% owned driver may find his way into the winner. Someone that we just talked about it with NASCAR. I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
Guys that we are not expecting can find their way into a winner just out of sheer luck and the way things shake out at the end of the race. So yeah, I like, if you are doing that, then I would almost play the entire field and mix them up. If I'm talking about an 150, and really mix it up. But even in a 20, you want to have a lot more diversity in your lineups if you're going to lock in a driver. And of course, the more you lock in, if you locked in a Blaney and you went heavy on someone else in there as well, then you're going to get even more diverse with your lineups elsewhere. So I think that's the way to do it. And like you said, we do that a lot of times in showdowns because we're trying to scoop. The showdown, NASCAR, I don't want to say it's the same as a showdown, but a lot of times you're going to chop the big one. You play in that.
It's a one race, right? It's one event, just like a showdown, where it's it's not the same, but it's one event. And
you're limited on the options. There's somewhere between 36 to 40 drivers every week, and you're kind of limited on the amount of different lineups that you can have. So these big GPPs often chop. But I've scooped multiple times the 100K, and almost always when you do that, you're going to do it with a sub 10% owned driver mixed in there. And the only way you get to those guys is, or often the time that you do get to those guys is when, if you're locking someone in, and then you could play a little higher on the guys. Because think of it this way. So if you're locked in on a guy, if he's 55% in the market and you lock him in, and he does, and he is in the winning lineup, then all those owners, even if you're at the same ownership of a lot of these guys, even if you're 5%, your combination of that 5% driver with Blaney, you're going to have a lot more you're going to have a lot more combinations of those drivers together than the field will. So I like doing it in that way. But yeah, just make sure you're diverse if you're going to lock in one driver.
Yep, 100%. And this is a good point from Daniels too. You kind of compare it to McLaren, where they've been the lock constructor. I don't even think about it. I just plug in the constructor of McLaren, then I'll play Piastri or Norris, right? That's been the way, Daniels, and with F1. In my opinion here, though, does the necessity of Blaney lower the value of Bell any? The answer is no, because Blaney is in a completely different race than Bell in this sense of Bell doms stage 1, Bell could dom stage 2, and we want to see Blaney at the front until stage 3, right? In my opinion, those two, they're scoring in terms of negative correlation, I feel like it's the lowest amongst any driver, right? I think it's the negative correlation is going to be a lot stronger with guys who are starting in the teens, or, if you look at Byron starting 10th, I think the negative correlation with Blaney will be there heavily. Briscoe, you can make the case. Logano, even you can make the slight case for, where it's like, look, if they're not going to lead stage 2 and you're relying on Dom point, or by stage 2 and you're relying on Dom points, Blaney is not going to correlate very strongly with them. Is that a bad combo still? No, but Bell is probably going to have, if anything, the lowest negative correlation with Blaney here. I know that's nerd talk for basically saying Bell is definitely playable with Blaney here.
Yeah, you could easily have them both in the same lineup because they're, like you said, they're not competing with each other necessarily for those same Dom points. Possibly in stage 3, but by that time, if Bell's in play here, he more than likely has kind of chewed up a bunch of Dom points for us, and he's gotten what we needed. Now we just need the finish. So, but again, that goes back to what I was saying. If you lock in if Blaney comes in at 55% and you lock him in, and then let's say Bell comes in at 30%, well, then you're looking at approximately 16.5% combo lineups, entries that are going to have that combination. If you're 100% Blaney and you're only down to like 20% of Bell, obviously that's going to put you at 20% combination of Bell Blaney. So if you know what I mean? So you could come in under the market on one of these other guys, but still be over the combination market, which is really what we're trying to achieve.
Whoa, we got some line movement apparently here. Chase Elliott, yes, he did move. He did move to plus 400 on DK Sportsbook.
It's 400 on DK?
Yep, DK Sportsbook. Let me, obviously you have a lot of tools that you can use to check that. You like to value the betting markets a lot. And I think this is a good time to kind of touch on that. I know that we're kind of running a little bit long here once we get to our plays of the day and stuff, but any take on that or any other books moving it, stats?
No, I just saw Logano actually just got bet a little bit, and Chase Elliott, like they said, has gotten bet. The Hamlin odds have gone up, as has Ty Gibbs. So the way the market's moving right now, yeah. Look at your boy Logano. I think that's a sneaky play. I like that. I'll have a decent mix of him in my 150. But yeah, if you're single entry building, I think you can make some really interesting lineups. They may all suck by the end of the day, but I think going in, you can play a lot of different lineups. I think I'm gonna say the 100K gets taken down solo today. We're gonna get a solo winner for 100K.
I'm with you, stats.
It's gonna be one of us here on the show.
I love it. Stats, you know what time it is. Sub 20% play of the day. I think I have a good idea who you're going to go, and we're not competing this time. I know that we both wanted Ryan Freese last week, and I stole him from you. We don't have to worry about that this week. Let's go ahead and get into your driver of the day. Sub 20%.
Sub 20%. All right, hold on. Let me sort this and let's see what we got. I was going to go with. I guess I'll stick with it. I'm going to go with Berry.
Yeah,
and we'll take him at the projected 15%.
I like that, Josh Berry, obviously with a race win this year. So that is very good to see. Very good here as well. It will be fun. And speaking of odd movement and stuff like that, he is now 16-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So that plus 3,500 at MGM keeps looking better as the day goes on. I am going to go a little bit different direction here. I'm going to go with the New Zealander. I'm going Shane Van Gisbergen. Look, we don't have a ton of samples of him being great at ovals, but we do have 2 races where he was able to get inside the top 15 at Martinsville, one in an Xfinity race, one in a Cup race last year as well. Or was he 19th? Whatever. He got top 20 at least. And I'm going to bank on the practice speed, showcasing a little bit of form here. Starting 33rd, a good PD play here, a good pair to play with a guy like Josh Berry, and then maybe get chalky elsewhere, because I think that's going to be the move. I think you can be very confident in lineups that have 2 guys who are sub 20%, 2 guys who are even sub 10%. I think could be a very possible situation here that you encounter. Should be a fun slate. Stats, any final words?
No, I mean, listen, enjoy it. I think this should be a fun race. I think Martinsville's always can always be exciting, and good luck if you're playing cash, because I think the cash lineups are really going to be difficult to put together.
I'm out in the cash games this week. I'm kind of curious to see who Bryce throws up for the cash score here. But yep, 4 stats and 4 I. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of y'all's day. And remember, we got baseball that locks in an hour and a half. We got NASCAR that locks in 3 hours. Then you're going to have a whole lot more on a day like this. But the Final Four about to be set with the Elite 8 games that are going to be here overall, ending very shortly. Should be a good one. 4 stats and 4 I. We appreciate y'all for watching, and goodbye.